Welcome to the Soulcery Podcast, your sacred space to delve into spiritual tools, topics, and practices that will illuminate your path of soul remembering and healing. I'm your host, Ligia Costa, a soul guide, alchemist, soul writing coach, and the creator of the Trust Pathway. I'm deeply grateful to have you here with me. Together, we will embark on a profound exploration of self-discovery and healing, unlocking the secrets that lie within. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Soulcery Podcast. I'm so excited to share this conversation I had with Zara. The main theme of this conversation is all about mental health. And this is a topic that is very close to my heart because, as I shared here on the podcast before, I battle chronic anxiety due to the abuse I went through when I was a child. And although it was only diagnosed as an adult, actually after I became a mother for the second time, I've been battling anxiety since I was young. And this journey can be very, very lonely, especially when we don't have the awareness and self-actualization like I didn't have at the time. And because this is a very, very lonely journey, I want you to feel with this conversation that you are not alone. That you feel that so many people are going through the same things you're going through. And sometimes what you're going through, you don't even realize is a symptom of mental health. And asking for help is crucial, or at least voicing your emotions and your needs instead of repressing and hiding them and bottling them up. I am very grateful that the reason why I was diagnosed as an adult with chronic anxiety was because I had a very good health visitor that, in her way, she kind of suspected that something was off with me. And at the time, it was postnatal depression, but it was postnatal depression because of underlying chronic anxiety. And she put me in touch with Home Start, which I am so very grateful that she did. I had the best support I could have ever had from them. The lady that used to come to my house was so lovely, non-judgmental. She supported me so much. She used to come once a week and just give me that breathing space, looking after my son whilst I could do something for myself, which I think I rarely did. But we also used to go out, both of us, to the park. And I think we went to a playgroup one time because that was something that I've always avoided. I didn't have the capacity to go to a place where I didn't know anybody. My English at the time was not as good. I was only in the UK for 5 years at the time. I didn't have any family or friends around. It was quite a lonely journey. And this lady was amazing. She was really, really good. And I'm so grateful for her, for all the time that she volunteered to just, be with me and to support me. And I'm also very grateful for a friend that still is my friend to this day. We created this very special friendship. And we met through our husbands. They used to work together, and then eventually we met as couples and we bonded straight away. And I'm very grateful for her because she was possibly the person that pushed me the most to seek therapy. She was there by my side, supporting me. Because my English wasn't good, she was there to help me, to seek the help that I needed, to find a good therapist nearby, and really to encourage me to go. Obviously, she couldn't do it for myself, but the fact that she was there to support me made a huge difference. And maybe if I didn't have these two people in my life at the time, my journey could have been very, very different. And what I want to tell you is that healing is possible. Asking for help is crucial, especially when going through very strong emotions and going through mental health. It's not something that we can overcome on its own. It doesn't go on its own. It doesn't heal on its own. It needs the proper help. And that's why I encourage everyone that is listening to seek professional therapy. By the end of this episode, Zara will give you other tools, more holistic tools that you can use whilst you're waiting for professional therapy. But because it's a very lonely journey, I really hope with this episode that me and Zara are these two people like I had in my life back in the days that can show you the way, that can encourage you to seek help, to seek healing, to believe that this is not what is going to happen for the rest of your life, that you're not going to be in this position for the rest of your life. And that is something that I want you to take away from this. 14 years ago, when I saw professional therapy for the first time, thanks to these two amazing people I had in my life, I never, ever, ever would have dreamed that 14 years later I would be in this position. Yes, I still battle chronic anxiety. Yes, the past 2.5 years have been awful in my life. Since I lost my dad in a very traumatic way, it took me into this spiral of being survival mode for the last 2.5 years. And yeah, it's been a struggle. However, wouldn't I have worked on myself for the past 14 years? If I haven't gone and asked for help when I did 14 years ago and saw professional therapy, this could have panned out very differently because I'm still functional. I'm not in the same position I was back then. I still feel hopeful. I still have my dreams. I still go out and do things. I still have creativity and I still have some sort of motivation and energy. Yes, fatigue and all of the things I've been going through and health-wise have been affected, but emotionally, those things are still there. 14 years ago, I had nothing. I was purely a shell. I had nothing inside. And if I was in that position when my dad passed away, my story could have been very, very different and ended very, very dramatically. And I'm being very, very raw here. And I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to be in a position where you have no way out or you feel you have no way out. So please ask for help. 14 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, even 5 years from now, your life could be completely different. And it will be. Because we know healing happens in layers. And we know that we are going through this process all of our lives. But when we have the tools, when we have the awareness, when we have the strength and the self-empowerment within us and the self-actualization, we can move through it. We move through it. Yes, we feel it. Yes, we sometimes are knocked out of the park, but we survive it. We can do it. So I really hope this episode will inspire you to go and seek help. It's Mental Health Awareness Week when I'm launching this episode. It's so important to raise awareness. So please, if you're listening to this and you have a friend or a family member that is struggling at the moment, please share the episode with them because it might be the help they need right now just to move them to take the first step. The same way I had my health visitor and I have my friend back then that helped me to take my first step. I want this conversation between me and Zara to be the inspiration for you to take the first step, or for a loving friend or family member that you have that is struggling, maybe listening to this will help them take the first step. So yes, share this episode away, please. So now let's move on to our conversation. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Soulcery Podcast. And today I'm very excited that I'm talking with a fellow Welsh wise woman. Her name is Zara, and she's very proud of being Welsh. And she's also a cPTSD survivor. And she has worked in health and social care for the past 18 years, especially in mental health for the past 4. She's also trained in delivering psychoeducation and have supported many individuals to improve all areas of their life within her company, Zala Wellbeing, and her role within the NHS. And I'm very excited because this theme is very close to my heart, as I already shared here in the podcast. I'm a mental health survivor, and I think after COVID, the mental health cases just increased. Many people are suffering from mental health, and bringing awareness to this, it's more important than ever, in my opinion. And so today the episode will be about encouraging individuals to look after their mental health so it doesn't get to a point of crisis. And Zara is here to share all her wisdom about it from her experience, and also from, the fact that she is a spiritual person like we all are here in this podcast. And it's very good to see the correlation between spirituality and mental health. So Zara, would you like to share a bit more about yourself and how you came into this journey of working with mental health and within the NHS?
Hello, everybody. I was first brought onto this path, I think, from a very young age. I unfortunately had quite a traumatic childhood. And from about the age of 10, I think, was my first significant trauma. And then I sort of feel like now I was in training to develop me into this person that I've become now. I mean, it's not an easy path for any of us, is it? But that's sort of the way that I feel about it now. And due to experiencing cPTSD, I had to learn a lot of coping mechanisms to be able to help me to cope with my everyday life, because the mental health system, in my opinion, has failed a lot of us for a very long time. And I grew up in a home with addiction issues, lots of domestic violence, and obviously all the types of abuse that come with that as well. But I was always really curious as to why that happened, and why for someone who appears to be a very caring and loving mother couldn't do the caring and the loving due to addiction and different issues, because it wasn't the person that she wanted to be. But for whatever reason, there was like this disconnect between the person that she wanted to be and the way that she coped with life.
Yeah.
And obviously that had traumatic results with I'm one of 5, so all 5 of us have experienced issues trauma from this in one way or another. And when I then, because I sort of grew up in a household where I was relied upon very heavily, I fell into a caring role from a very young age. From the age of 10, I was there supporting my brothers and sisters, and then I started to support my mother. And I realized when I got to the age of 30 that I actually, and even with a job as well, I started working in a nursing home when I was 19. And I've always been really, really good at caring for people. I've always been really good at making people feel better. That's sort of a part of my natural gift as well, to soothe people's energies and to make them feel more comfortable. But when I got to about the age of 30, I recognized that I was giving everything that I had to make other people feel better and not giving it back to myself. And then COVID happened as well. In 2020, and it sort of made me sit with myself, really. So COVID was actually beneficial for me, because for once in my life I didn't have the opportunity to be able to go off and distract myself with a million different jobs and stuff like that. I had to sit with myself in my room and then do the work that I've been doing on other people, on myself. And it was through through sort of trying to understand addiction and recognizing what I needed to give myself and what I hadn't been giving myself over all of those years, and the way that I needed to support other people, I came to the conclusion that it's because we're not looking after ourselves holistically,
Yeah.
mind, body, and spirit, that is the main cause for our mental health and the addiction issues within our country at the moment. Because the way we've learned to cope in this country, as you can see quite prevalently, is to self-medicate.
Yeah.
So many people in this country self-medicate, and we do that through so many different ways. It could be like, I'm a massive comfort eater, which I'm currently trying to get under control as well. But it can be through comfort eating, it can be through
Alcohol.
social media, and any of the vices that we can use them to distract ourselves from our everyday life.
Yeah.
And I realized that the reasons that we turn into these is because we're not taught how to cope. We should be taught in school how to deal with our emotions, how to be emotionally regulated, how to self-soothe. It's okay to be stressed. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel all of the the negative or bunny ears emotions.
Yeah.
We're allowed to experience all that, but we've just got to understand that those emotions are not permanent, and we've got to understand how to take ourselves back out of those feelings. And then I learned through practicing breath work and meditation and mindfulness and all of these different, connecting with nature and doing ritual practice and things. That's how I keep myself well. So, and then through working in the mental health system, I realized that there is not that education out there, and it's so difficult to get to secondary mental health. And even when you do get to secondary mental health, they're not very good at teaching the basic skills, because very often you'll come through to secondary mental health, you'll go on a waiting list. If it's deemed that you need psychology, you'll go on a waiting list, and sometimes they offer DBT Light, but until you get to that therapy, there's nothing.
Yeah.
So you've got to hold yourself until you get to that therapy. But the reason that you've come through to secondary is because you're at crisis. So you need something then. And I'm not a qualified therapist. I teach psychoeducation, but I'm trained in mindfulness, and I teach breath work, and these are just the very basics that we need to be able to cope with our emotions. And it's also extremely important to have those skills when you're accessing therapy, before you access the therapy. And they are so simple. Like, anybody can teach this. Anybody. They're so simple, but they're just not valued within society, because breathwork is seen as like woo woo, and and spirituality is seen as woo woo. And I think religion has not given spirituality a very good name. I think they get tied up quite a lot. But
they are two different things, but people still confuse spirituality with being religious.
Yeah. So I think the two might be sort of crossing over a little bit, which is giving this stigma, but there's also a massive stigma around mental health. So I'm trying to do away with that stigma, and to get people to recognize that we need to take care of ourselves, little and often. We all experience mental health, every one of us, whether it's good mental health or bad. We've all got to keep ourselves mentally healthy so that we can be physically well as well. It's just as important, if not more so. If you're mentally unwell, you've got no motivation to be able to take care of yourself, to take care of your environment, to take care of your family.
And it's just a spiral, isn't it? Then you feel bad about yourself, you start guilting yourself, feeling ashamed, and it's just a spiral there. It's just a cycle.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I started this journey.
Wow. And it's so similar to me as well. Like, not that I work on the NHS or anything like that, but I also came from an abusive childhood, and I've been coping with chronic anxiety since I was very young due to the very abusive childhood I had. But I wasn't diagnosed until I had my second baby. And that was because I was in postnatal depression. Then I went to have private therapy because, as you said, long waiting lists for the NHS therapy. And she then diagnosed me with postnatal depression due to actually anxiety. But only recently I discovered that actually that is a trauma response. is a trauma. Everything that you just mentioned about we numbing our emotions is because we don't feel safe to feel our emotions due to past trauma. And it
Yeah.
might not be that you had a actually trauma in childhood as sexual abuse or physical abuse, or it might not be just that. It might be the condition that you've been through. Even the repressing of emotions, like you said, that it's normal to feel angry and stressed, but we were conditioned to believe as young children that is not acceptable. If you are angry and you have tantrums and you put it on the naughty step. You were labeled in school as the naughty or the troublemaker, and all these labels just adds to, okay, is something wrong with me?
Yeah.
So I have to adapt my behavior, and I'm going to repress who I am. So I fit in, and I'm the caretaker, and I'm the people pleaser, and I'm the academic student that then is just pouring all the attention to being academic because, again, it's numbing. It's like as adults, we see that every time with people being workaholics. It's just another coping mechanism. And yeah, you're absolutely right. This should be taught in schools. These should be
Yeah.
taught in schools.
Yeah, it is the systems that we grow up in as well, though. And like grow up within the patriarchal system, and that's not the patriarchy is not masculine or feminine. It's an entity on its own. It's just it affects both sexes or all sexes in different ways. And we've also got capitalism that all of us have heavily been involved in capitalism, because if you're not out there being productive and earning money, then you're not a very good person. You're less of a person. So then we've got all these pressures that we put on ourselves. This is without the trauma and everything. This is just the world that we're growing up in,
Yeah.
And then you've got like our toxic environments and things that are making us sick, because not everybody's got clean water, and the air that we breathe is so filled with toxins and things now, and our beauty products and all of these different things accumulate into us being actually quite unwell as a human species now.
That's so
That's,
true.
that's like across the board. Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's absolutely. It's our environment, is how we feed ourselves as well. Not
Yeah.
only with foods that are not healthy, not only with alcohol, but with what we consume on social media and news.
Yeah.
That can be absolutely very toxic and just bring a lot of fear that then gets stored in the body, and it's difficult to shift. And yes, breath work and mindfulness, as you so wisely said, are very, very foundational ways and techniques that we can regulate our nervous system, and is not woo-woo at all. It's
No.
actually proved already scientifically that it works.
Yeah. And we're all living in survival. Like until I was I would say about 30, if not maybe my late 20s, I was living until I discovered breath work. I was living in survival mode, and I didn't even realize. And I think there's so many of us in society now that are living in that survival mode and not able to even think about taking ourselves to a relaxing state of mind or anything, because we're so used to like bills coming through the door, like news with all the war and everything, all these things, even though they're only micro triggers, they're all still things that keep us in fear. And then we basically go around our days living in fear. I mean, if you think it, you get up in the morning, you spill your cup of coffee, that's one sort of like micro trigger that you've had now. But automatically now in your mindset, you're having a bad day. Then you leave the house and somebody pulls out on you, because that's what's going to happen when you go out into the world. But then you've had two things now. Now you're having a really bad day. You get to work and you're having a row with your boss, or your colleague is not performing as you want them to. Then you're stressed out in work all day because there's all this capitalistic pressure. By the time you get home from work, you've got nothing left to give your family, which is completely understandable. But what I try and teach is that if after that cup of coffee spilt in the morning, you took yourself away from that and you use mindfulness to ground yourself in the moment and just to breathe for 3 minutes, you could have that as just one isolated event. And then maybe when something else happens a little bit later, because we live in the world and these things will, you can do that again and take yourself away from that event, and don't let these things pile up. So then by the time you get home and you see your children, you've got no patience left for them, which is completely understandable. But you can give yourself that patience in tiny little micro moments throughout the day. and it's just going to make everything feel more manageable.
That's so right. And I wish I knew about breath work back when I was like having panic attacks. And it's not like I was going out to the world. I was stuck at home being a mum full time. And that also can leave you, and especially if you
So
go with,
hard.
yeah, it is hard because
Hard.
you're just giving. Obviously,
Yeah.
you get from them,
Yeah.
you get the cuddles and you get all the things. But when you are in such a state of either the postnatal depression or anxiety, everything is seen with dark lenses. It's just, you don't treasure those moments, or you don't see them. I'm receiving as well. Like, I didn't even have this awareness back then. I wish I had, but things happened for us, and it had to be the journey that I was on to become the person I am today. But it's so important to have that awareness. And if you were like taught at school, or when we first go to the doctors and we say, yeah, I've been feeling low, when we do all the, the
Exactly.
forms and things, instead of they medicating us with antidepressants, if there were like classes available, even if it just was workshops online that you can see on the go, that people could access for free and just learn the basics of all these survival modes and things that happened within ourselves. Yeah, if you were taught about these survival modes that we go into, this fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response, that many people are not aware.
Yeah. Oh my God, I can't believe you just said fawn as well, because people don't know what that is.
No.
I say that so often. Like, people often know the fight, flight, or I'm excited now. See, I can't even speak anymore. Fight, flight, or freeze. They know those three. But fawning is something that I did for so long, and I didn't even know that it was a thing until I started working in mental health, and then I learned all the trauma responses and things. And I thought that it was my personality to be shy and underconfident and to be anxious all the time. I thought that was me. And then going through these lists of like being a people pleaser and how that's a trauma response, and how being underconfident is also a trauma response, and not having any self-esteem and all these different things, it blew my mind. I did not realize that my personality was basically made up from trauma responses.
But that is the thing. That is the thing.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
We are so. This is formed within the first 7 years of our lives, right? So all the experience that we have in those foundational years of life kind of dictates, per se, the person that we become. So if we believe that a trauma response or a coping mechanism or these limiting beliefs are part of our identity, that's what we believe who we are.
Yeah.
That is a part of our personality trait, and so you can't change it.
Yeah.
It's who I am. I was born like this.
Yeah.
And there is this kind of powerless around it that I can't change it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you then have the awareness, actually, this is a coping mechanism. I can change it.
Yeah.
I have the power.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden shifts the energy within you, like, oh, actually, I can own it and do something about it.
Yeah. There's a worksheet that I teach from now. It was written quite a long time ago, but in there it says that people may have an anxious I'm not quoting it exactly, but this is like roughly what it says. That people may have an anxious disposition or may be naturally anxious. Nobody is born naturally anxious. Nobody is born frightened. Nobody.
No,
Fear is learned as we grow up through different experiences. And sometimes we need to be afraid of things to keep ourselves safe.
Yes.
But we do not need to live in fear. And trauma teaches us to live in fear, especially when you've got cPTSD or you've had a traumatic childhood. Your developmental years is teaching you that the world is unsafe and that you've got to be constantly on the lookout for danger.
Yes.
But you can get out of that. You don't have to be that anxious person who's constantly living in fear. You can take yourself from surviving every day into thriving every day. It is 1,000,000% possible, because I've done it myself. So I know that it is possible, and I've taught other people to do it. So it's just believing that you can. That is the key thing, because that fear keeps you in disbelief. If you can have that belief in yourself that you've got the strength to be able to overcome, then you can overcome. But it's hard to gain that strength, but it comes from practicing breath work and mindfulness and building your personal resilience to everyday situations. So then when big situations happen, you already know that you've got the skills to be able to cope with it.
That's so true. And sometimes all we need is to hear these things. Because I remember when I was in a very bad way with my anxiety and depression, I think depression is even worse because you have no motivation in terms of, not worse, but in terms of having the resilience to actually learn these skills. When you are depressed, you just surviving basically. You're just here. And if you are taking antidepressants, and this was from my personal experience, if you slap me on one side of the cheek, I would give you the other cheek. Because I just didn't have it in me. Anything.
Yeah.
And sometimes what it takes is having someone that might show up. It might be a podcast that you listen like this one. It might be a friend that keeps telling you go and seek therapy and I'll go with you. It might be a family member. It might be a stranger even. You don't know. But sometimes what it takes is someone to bring you the awareness that you can change this. That you are worthy. That you are worthy of being healed.
Absolutely.
And that it was not your fault. Because
absolutely.
I believe that with so many people I've spoken with that went through something traumatic or went through the moments of depression or anxiety, you start to believe it was your fault.
Yeah.
Right? And when we believe it's our fault and this is what I went through, you kind of feel like, I don't even know why I'm here. I'm a bad person. I shouldn't be here. And I think like having someone just to take us through and bring us to our attention. Actually, you can do mindfulness. You can do breath work. And then you start, okay, I'm curious about this now. Let me look for it. Because from my experience, when I went to the NHS to seek help, all they gave me was medication.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Do you feel it's still the case? Because that was like 14 years ago.
I mean, I can only talk for the area that I work in. And yeah, unfortunately, if I'm really honest, I do feel like that's still the case because we haven't got the funding. Because of the lack of resources, the lack of staff, and all of that doesn't make for a healthy mental health system. And then we're working on bare bones, and bare bones are like therapy is expensive, as you will know if you've paid for therapy yourself. Therapy is expensive. Medication is cheap.
True.
And it's cheaper to medicate someone so that they feel numb than to teach someone how to be well. And that's unfortunately the crux of it. But if we don't feel like we're living a life that's got any joy in it, because that's the issue with depression, and everything feels hopeless. Yeah. If we don't feel like we're living a life with any joy, the likelihood, even on medication, that you're going to end your life is still quite high, because you're not experiencing any joy in your everyday. No. So if there is anyone out there that is listening, because when you're feeling so low that you couldn't possibly think about breath work and it does all feel pointless and stupid, I would tell those people to find something that you like. Just one thing, even if it's a bar of chocolate, just something that will bring you joy in your day. And then maybe the next day, if you've got enough energy, a TV program, literally anything that brings you joy. And then just keep working towards that joy and the things that make you feel good, because that's going to be the path that's going to bring you out of your darkness. And then once you start coming out of your darkness, you're going to feel strong enough to start practicing a little bit of breath work and mindfulness. And hopefully you start working through the issues that brought you to that place originally. But it is definitely still the case that we throw tablets at people, and we unfortunately don't have the resources to be able to teach people how to be mentally well, which is the whole reason I started a business. I've been working for free for the last 2 years as well. I've done so many women's circles and mental health sessions for free. Yeah, because people can't afford to pay for it. I mean, if you're that low and you're in that darker place, like you can't afford to pay for it. We're a community interest company now, so we can start applying for grants and things, but even grant funding is so hard to come by.
Yeah.
like they're funding the wrong areas. They're funding big pharma because the medication is a quick fix. They fund that. They teach the doctors about things like that. But what we need is to give more education about organizations like myself and other
Yes.
people out there like myself that are going to be able to actually help and keep people well long term, because medication will only work for a very short period of time. And even people who are on long-term painkillers and things will tell you this. You'll have your initial dose, but
Hmm.
then your body and your mind will become accustomed to that dose, so you'll have to increase. And without therapy and the skills that you need to emotionally regulate yourself, you'll have to keep going up, keep increasing. Some people manage to find something that works for them and they can stay on that long term. But without the therapy and the skills that they need to learn to be able to be mentally well, is still not a fulfilling,
No.
thriving life. They're still sort of stuck in the same place. They just don't feel so bad about it anymore.
And then it goes back to the capitalism. And, if people are not productive because they are feeling so low, obviously they don't have it in them. Many people are not even working because they don't have the capacity. And then obviously they go on to benefits, which is just how it has to go. And then they feel blamed and pressured to find a job when they are not feeling in a capacity mentally to do it so. And it's just that pressure that then just makes it even worse.
Yeah. There is more help out there now, within my council anyway. They've restructured the way that they support people back into work. So if you feel like you want to get back into work, there is now like courses that they can fund you to go on. There's mental health support that they can provide. So it's not so, right, let's just find you a job, because I don't know if you remember what the job centre used to be like.
Oh,
But the
yeah.
whole system of the job centre is really terrible for the people that are accessing that service. And I mean, nobody wants to be there.
No.
If they didn't have to be there, they wouldn't be there, And we teach people with such shame and judgment because they're in that position. But anybody could be in that position. And if
Exactly.
we were just a little bit more compassionate and supportive for trying to find people work that they actually want to do, because I believe we've all got a calling, and we've all got things that we want to do that make us feel good and supportive of the planet. And there are so many jobs out there for people that wanna work. You can do what you want to do, because
Yeah.
some people are very, really good at being cleaners and all of those really highly important roles. I've only ever been a band 3 within the NHS, so I've only ever been like a carer. That's been my career. But I'm so proud of being a carer, and I'm
Of
so good at
course.
it. And if we could just pay people the wage that they deserve for those jobs, it just wouldn't, it wouldn't be so difficult to live, would it?
And it's just not a carer. Not at all, because maybe your role is to be the closest to the patient than a doctor or a nurse. And
Yeah.
some doctors can be a bit cold. And
Yeah.
you are so vulnerable already in
Yeah.
a position like that. If there
Yeah.
is no humanness, if there is no human connection, someone to make us feel seen and heard and like a person, because at some point you just feel like not yourself anymore.
Yeah.
And your role is very important, if not the most important.
Yeah.
That's my belief. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think in the name of everyone that's listening, we are very grateful for you and all the carers, and we do appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. So yeah, this is very, very interesting, because working in medicine, working in the NHS field, and being spiritual and believing in an holistic well-being, how do you marry the two?
Okay. Yeah. So it was something. Yeah, that's a really good question, and it is something that I've come across.
I could imagine. I'm very interested in your point of view.
Yeah. So mental health in general, women have been treated, historically women have been treated very badly in mental health, and they used to use terms like hysterical. We used to be forced into baths of cold water, which had to be done when the woman wasn't aware of it as well. So you'd be taken off for your treatment, and you would be plunged into a bath of cold water for anything up to 20 minutes, but you wouldn't be told when you were going to go into that water because it had to be shock therapy. That was
Oh.
one of the ways that they used to be able to treat women. Being institutionalized was a problem. There was being lazy was another reason why women could have actually been admitted to insane asylums, for being lazy, for being tired, overly tired. These are, genuine reasons for why women have been admitted.
Oh my God.
So, and obviously you know about like the way that we treated people who were deemed as witches back in the day, and anyone who followed a religion other than Christianity, basically.
And even midwives, healers.
Yeah. So anybody who didn't fit into the system or the structure that they deemed as normal, and they didn't act appropriately, they could be admitted to one of these asylums. That included like people with disabilities and things. It was sort of like they were cutched away so that society didn't have to look at them anymore. I think there's even members of the royal family that were, I'm not saying that they were mistreated, but they were sent away from the family so that nobody knew that they were a part of the family or anything.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that happened quite a lot throughout society because people with disabilities have always been there. We've always had lots of different members of society, but they haven't always been treated as well as they should be. And because women in particular were persecuted, sort of our womanly practices as well were also persecuted. So like gathering in circle, anything that was deemed as witchy, tarot reading, that can all come under tarot reading, following different gods, having ideas of having powers, or believing that you've got an ability to influence the world other than in the physical.
Yeah.
Would all come under the umbrella of psychoses. And that is something that I struggled with when I first started working in mental health, because I believe in energy to the very core of my being. I believe we can influence each other's energy. I believe that we can, good and bad. And I believe the whole universe is run on energy, that we are somewhere in between flowing in. So we've got abilities to be able to tap into different energetic paths and to manifest and, lots of different things like that. But because of the beliefs of the mental health system, when I first started working in mental health, there was a lady on the ward who was reading tarot cards, and her reading tarot cards actually went down as evidence towards her psychoses.
Wow.
Crystals as well, that was something else that actually went down. Like and it was only sort of like a fleeting remark. It wasn't anything, it wouldn't be concrete evidence from that. But I thought, even in this day and age now, when we have come on so far from the days where, women used to be admitted to be lazy and stuff, but we're still shaming people for ritual practices that actually help us to be well.
Yeah.
And if somebody believes that a crystal, regardless of what you believe, if somebody believes that a crystal is giving them less anxiety than they experienced before they held that crystal, who are we to say that you're not allowed to believe that? Who are we to shame someone and put more anxiety on them than because they're trying to make themselves feel better? Tarot cards for me, and oracle cards, are a way of thinking outside the box and trying to work through problems. And whether I believe that I'm communing with a god or the energy or whatever it is a way that I've been able to work through. Ritual practice is a way that I've been able to work through my trauma, that I've been able to accept my trauma, and that I've been able to overcome my trauma as well, and get myself to a level where I've been able to forgive every abuser. I think my mother especially, because it's given me an outside perspective that everyone is doing their best. So I teach in breath work and things. They're not even really spiritual, are they? But if patients ask me if they are interested in like tarot and things, I will direct them in places that they can go and seek more knowledge on it. But I won't actually pass that knowledge on myself, because within my NHS role, it's not really a part of that. With Zala Wellbeing, and when I'm running women's circles and things like that, absolutely, we use tarot cards, we
Yeah.
use work, we share our stories at the beginning of circle, and empower ourselves to make ourselves feel heard and validated, and share our stories so that we can heal other women and things as well. So within Zala Wellbeing, it is a very heavy part of that. Being spiritual is a very heavy part of that healing process and that teaching that I give out to the world. But it is also more gently, but it is still there within my NHS role, because I think it's desperately important that we start connecting with ourselves, that part of ourselves again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because if you see, all trauma, all mental health issues is basically a disconnect of self. So spirituality, in my point of view, brings you to connect within yourself, to find your power within, to find your soul essence. So you are bringing back that connection. And that's why I feel with so many amazing women that I meet, most healers that I know, mediums, psychic healers, they all been through hell. They all battle their own trauma and abuse and all sort of things. And now they use that to help other people because they've been through that. They learned, they connected spiritually to learn who they are, to learn forgiveness, to learn acceptance, which is something that we are not taught.
No, yeah.
If children have a row, right, we say, apologize, please. But they don't understand what that is.
Yeah.
They don't understand, why do I have to apologize? What is forgiveness? Am I doing this for that person or am I doing this for me? So I feel better. I don't feel the weight of being angry or resentment and so on and so on. Like, I'm sure there are ways that we can articulate this in the best way for a child to understand. But I'm so interested about your women's circle and knowing that you're not far from me.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
And do you find, like, obviously, just share if you can, as someone that works for the NHS, do you find there is some sort of people looking at you differently because you believe in spirituality and you bring into your life? And I mean, like, colleagues and people you work with, do you find that?
Yeah, possibly. I haven't really come across any sort of persecution or anything within my workplace. I'm very supported by my colleagues for the business that I've set up, because we are all very aware within our CMHT. We are all very aware that the system is not fit for purpose, and they've been very supportive with understanding that the service is needed. There's always like legalities and like, obviously I've got a 9-to-5 job, so I can't work my business within the 9-to-5 and stuff like that. There's always stuff like that to navigate. But as far as, I get called on from my team to teach mindfulness and grounding techniques and they come and ask me for tips on how to teach that to patients as well, because I was going to say an expert at it then, but like, because,
well, you are.
yeah, because I am really good at it. And often when patients are struggling with, when practitioners are struggling with their patients, it will be the sort of basics of breath work and grounding and mindfulness that they need to go over. And I'll work with someone for a little bit and get those basics in there. And then usually they'll start coming on really quickly then, because they'll understand how, when these uncomfortable feelings trigger, this is how I soothe myself. So I work within occupational therapy, and we do a lot of work of getting people out into the community again. We look at people's occupations, like the things that they do every day. But if you're afraid to leave the house, you can't go shopping. So I'll take people into supermarkets and teach them how to reduce their anxiety symptoms and things when we're in the supermarkets. But I've got a bit of a reputation for being quite good at that now, so they do call on me, and yeah, I do. I freely share my knowledge. And anybody that comes to Circle, or I'm not gatekeeping it at all. I believe that everybody needs to know this. So I
Hmm.
really share my knowledge with anybody that wants to know it, and anything that you learn from me, I want people to take it and share it with other people so that we can all start being more well and living in a better world.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that's another thing, another trait that I find within healers, genuine healers, is that they are here just, to share their knowledge, just to share their wisdom, because we want to be of service, basically. And again, because we walk through fire, we don't want that for other people.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and sometimes we feel like, oh, it's overwhelming wanting to change the world. What does that even mean, like changing the world? It changes in your household, with the
yeah,
people you work with your friend circle, with your family circle. It's just that ripple effect, and that's
exactly.
how things change. You don't have to go and become this celebrity that will touch many people's lives. Yeah, if you can do it, go for it. But it starts within us, within ourselves, and then it's just, changing the world. So I'm sure you changed already so much within your colleagues, your team, that already come for you for advice and help on how to apply those techniques with the patients, and then the changes that you bring into the patients' lives as well, and with your women circle, where you are just passing on knowledge, because we don't own it.
No,
What's the
yeah,
point? What's the point of
yeah,
having all of this
yeah,
knowledge if we
yeah,
don't share it?
yeah, yeah.
Why hoard it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's all live in a nice place. I mean, we're trying to get away from the capitalistic structures of and patriarchy and being people's bosses and things. And we all like in a women's circle. One of my favorite things about it is when I'm doing the housekeeping at the beginning, we explain to everyone that everyone in our circle is equal. Nobody
Hmm.
is above or below anyone. We've all got valid experience and valid knowledge that we're going to be bringing into that circle. And whether or not you feel strong enough to be able to share that on that day
Hmm.
is by the by. You might need a little bit of extra healing on that day, but we are all equal, and we are all intelligent, powerful, strong women that can empower other people to heal. It's the healing path. It should be for everyone. It's not exclusive. We've all got a job
Exactly.
to be nice people. That's yeah.
And I
Um,
think that's the legacy that we should aim. As a collective, I think that's our soul's path. As a
yeah,
collective, is to be here and just leave the world a better place than
yeah,
when we arrived.
yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
believe so.
Yeah, because then we can start looking after the environment as well. If
Hmm.
we're feeling stronger and better within ourselves and in our home lives and in our work lives, then we can start branching out then to taking care of our environment and taking care of the planet and things like that. But if we don't feel like we've got any, if our cup is empty for ourselves, then we haven't got anything to pour out to anywhere else, have we?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, I absolutely love this conversation, Zara. Wow, so much wisdom and so many things alike. Like, I think just the fact that we connected for this interview, it wasn't a coincidence. We know that it's never a coincidence, and I'm so grateful for, you coming to the podcast and sharing your wisdom again, freely, not holding anything, to the people that will listen, and hopefully that's the medicine that they need to listen. And you already said that you host women's circle. Is it only local? Do you do it online?
So we've got one online and we've got one local at the moment. We try and do them tri-weekly, but I've had an episode of ill health myself, so I'm just getting back into it now. But yeah, we've got one online and one local in Blackwood, which is not that far away from you actually in
No.
Cardiff.
Oh my gosh.
And we've got a bell tent up on the farm, Pencoed Farm. So that's where we hold the women's circles. We also do like different psychoeducation sessions. We've just done a couple of animal assisted therapy sessions where we cuddled lambs, and it was
Oh.
so lovely. So I was using the medium of lambs to teach mindfulness basically, and encouraging people to ground themselves into the moment with the feel of the lambs and the sounds in the barn and stuff like that. but it was so relaxing. Like all the lambs were sleeping on everyone's laps, and
So
it
cute.
was really lovely. Yeah, animals have got a really special way of opening us up spiritually and getting us to connect with our relaxing part of ourselves, because stroking an animal also helps lower your blood pressure, and it does lots of lovely, wonderful things for us. So it was really, I felt really privileged to be able to offer that session to people at the farm. It was really good. I'm hoping to do more in the future as well, but I'll do pretty much anything I can to get a bit of psychoeducation out there. So we also
That's
hold craft sessions as well. We encourage adult crafting sessions and both mixed children and adults, because
wow.
crafting is a way that you can give yourself a little bit of grounding, a little bit of mindfulness, and you feel like you've achieved something at the end of that as well. It's a
Yeah.
replenishing way, because we need things that feed our spirit, as
Mm-hmm.
well as giving ourselves time to rest. Bed rest and stuff like that is really important. But you also need to make sure that you're replenishing your energy by being creative.
Mm-hmm.
Creativity is so important, so important.
And so underestimated. And people get so attached to the fact that being creative, you have to be artistic. And you
It's not.
don't. It's not
No,
about that.
no, no. Yeah, it's just about just get
Be in the
creating the
moment.
world creating the world that you want to be in. If you're not creative, you can't create the world that you want to be in, and you can't create the life that you want to live. So yeah, we do some creative journaling sessions and things as
Oh,
well.
I
So
love that. I'm
yeah,
all on into creative journaling. I'm a
yeah.
journaling therapist, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, journaling is huge. It's such a great tool for, mental health. Such a
Yeah,
great tool.
yeah, yeah. I use journaling in my ritual practice as well, and I've used it to help me release
Mm,
some trauma and things. It can be really painful,
mm,
journaling. Trying to
mm.
do it can be really painful, but if you can sit with yourself and self-soothe and go through what you've written, you teach yourself then that you're able to overcome and to deal with these feelings. Journaling is so powerful, so
It
powerful.
is. It is. Oh,
Words
another
are so
another
powerful.
another journaling sister.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So you already said local, you already said where you are. Online, where are you? So if someone is like far away.
So we've got a Facebook. You can find us on Facebook. We've also got a link tree, which will show all of our social media on the link tree. We've got a website that you can see all of our upcoming events, and our online women's circles are also advertised through the website. Instagram, we've got an Instagram as well. So we're in a couple of different places if you want to find us. And I'm always happy to receive a message from anyone that's struggling and could do with a little bit of guidance on what I feel like would help. And I'm also very happy to give information on how to access the mental health system and how to navigate the mental health system as well, because that can be a little bit tricky sometimes.
Yeah.
And having such a huge background in care as well, if anybody is a carer and they're struggling with that load as well, I can give information on how to access more help and how to cope yourself. So I've got quite a few tools.
Wow, you are amazing. Oh my gosh, you are a gift from God, from the source, from
Thank you very
universe.
much.
You are indeed. Because it's so hard to find that, especially if you are into spirituality. And some people, like I would say many people that are into spirituality, they try not to go into the medication, into, they want to do it in a more holistic way. And I've been seeing that more and more, and it's so easy to feel judgmental around it from the NHS, from the doctors, from things like that finding someone that actually is in both worlds and can bring that all together with compassion without judgment, it's so rare. That's why you are a gift. You are absolutely a gift. So you can look for Zara and Zala Wellbeing, but I'll put all the links in the show notes. So you can just click on there and go and follow her on Instagram, follow her on Facebook, find her website. If you're local, come to the women's circle. I'll mostly go. I will look into it right after our interview and follow in all the places. I just can say, I know that you guys can't see us, but if you could see us, Zara has just this beautiful light energy around her. Beautiful smile. She speaks with her eyes. So pure, really. Like, you would feel so invited and so welcomed and just part of the family, just having a chat with her. I can absolutely see where you have this caring, nature in you. I wouldn't say it's a personality trait. It's part of your DNA. It's a
Yeah,
nature.
it's definitely my soul. Yeah,
It is. It
to
is.
my
And
detriment sometimes, but yeah.
And even just having this casual conversation, you're not caring for my needs. It comes through. It comes through so easily. And your passion as well about mental health improvement and well-being and changing this, bringing awareness to the importance of bringing a more holistic life. And it doesn't mean like you are rejecting the NHS or, the
No,
medical
no.
assistance. You're not rejecting that, but also you're not rejecting the part of who you are that needs connection with your soul. Because, as you said very wisely in the beginning, in order to feel connected and happy and fulfilled, we need the well-being in three pillars. It's just mind, body, and soul. So if the soul, the spirit is not being nurtured, it's really hard to then have the capacity to look into our well-being and our physical well-being.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thank you so much, Zara, for today. I absolutely love this conversation. I absolutely am so grateful to have met you, to connect with you, to have this amazing conversation. And I can't wait to follow your work.
Thank you very much. I'll definitely be following along with yours as well. So yeah,
Oh,
it's been a pleasure.
thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
What a conversation we had. I promised you at the beginning that this conversation will be very eye-opening, that will be very, very important to raise awareness for mental health and to give you that inspiration to take the first step. I really hope you took something away from this conversation. If nothing else, just please don't suffer alone. It's so important that you ask for help. It's so important that you seek professional therapy. And we know that unfortunately, here in the UK, mental health services are really delayed and there is a huge waiting list, but still get into the system so that the ball start rolling. And whilst you wait, try and feed yourself with these holistic tools that you can take. There are so many free resources out there that can help you, or even courses and workshops that can help you with starting to implement breath work or mindfulness or meditation or creative practices or spiritual practices or journaling into your life to help you to create that safe space within you. Because we know that mental health is a symptom of we not feeling safe. It's a trauma response. So using these holistic tools are really, really necessary, really, really, really important to help you regulate your nervous system, to help you ground, to help you feel safe, so that then you are able to work on your emotions, work on your beliefs, on your trauma, on your mental health conditions in a way that you feel safe to work with, okay? So please, please, please ask for help. If anything, me and Zara are here for you. Just reach out. You have our links in the show notes. We are here to help you not feeling alone. This journey can be so lonely, but it doesn't have to be. We are here if you need. Before I love you and leave you, I pulled a card from the Trust Journaling deck, and the card that I pulled is from the Unravel suite, and the soul inquiry is, what do I need to let go right now? What do I need to release? What do I need to let go right now? What do I need to release? And the affirmation is, my mind is peaceful and clear. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for listening to the Soulcery Podcast. and for holding space for this conversation. It is truly magical to be able to walk with you on this journey of soul healing and inner transformation. If you resonated with this episode and found it valuable, I would be grateful if you could leave a review on iTunes. Your feedback helps me reach more souls searching for guidance and healing. For more guidance and soul wisdom to support soul awakening women through the journey of alchemy, please visit my website www.lijacosta.co.uk. Love and healing to all. See you on the next one.